I'm gonna climb a tree.
Watch out.
Ah!
Hi there. Welcome to the Forbidden Limb Podcast. I'm your host, Richard New, and as always, I'm joined by Jeremy Commander and Brian Hink. Today, we're going to stay inside the box. I know we're always taught to think a little outside the box. Today, we're going to stay inside the box because we're going to be talking about packaging and what packaging is necessary for your games and, you know, the different
I'm a board game box aficionado. That's like one of the first things I check out when I get a game is, how nice is the box? And I'm disappointed when I get a cheapy box.
Absolutely.
And I'm really pleased when I get a really nice box.
Show that one with the divot on the top again.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was down there, yeah.
This is it's from the Game Crafter.
And you can just see, something's been laying on top of it.
Yep.
This is the Game Crafter box too.
Yeah.
They're on demand, and I like the Game Crafter. But their boxes are probably the weakest aspect of the games they make. And so, I can see this box is, it flexes really easily. It's very thin. Here's another example of a box that is probably not going to hold up that well once it gets banged around in your bag a while or in your trunk or something like that. Magic Deck box, same thing. A little thin box is going to get beat up.
That's why there's such a market for buying those nice Deck Pro boxes and stuff
like
that.
Yeah, exactly. And Wizards is like, no, that's fine. We'll take the cheap box, save money, and you can go buy the aftermarket box. And
this is just supposed to hold it to get to you, and then you can rip it apart.
Yep.
And there's a consideration too with just keeping it small. So like this box or Magic Deck, it's very small. You could just slip this in your pocket super easily, throw it in a purse. It's just very easy to bring around.
There's no extra space. There's not a whole bunch of extra space in the box for things to rattle around.
When you're going to your game night, you have your big, probably your box of stuff to bring, or your the plastic. People usually get those kind of plastic tubs that you put your games in.
Yeah, I've seen many of those.
And you only have a limited amount of room in there. So if you put a few big box games in there, it's kind of nice, to have some of the smaller ones that you can just kind of slip in, the sides and stuff, and
fill all the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's something to consider too. Do you want it to look nice on a game store shelf so that people can see it, but then you also want it to be able to be easy to carry and that kind of thing too. Slip into a backpack.
Yeah. At BGG, Diamonds came out. That's like a trick-taking game. And it's got lots of positive buzz. People really like the game. But they were making fun of it because it says, on the side of the box, Pocket Series. But the box is not quite this big, but it's a big box. It would not fit in your pocket.
It's like the new iPhones.
Yeah, the big boxes. This is a box from Panda, and it's much less squishy, much more rigid. And this box is going to hold up to a lot more abuse than another box will, and I really appreciate that.
You can even see the cover has you can see the
linen
fibers.
Finish. Yeah, it's much more durable, that extra layer. I want to give a shout out to Crash Games and Patrick Nichol. That I keep backing Crash Games on Kickstarter, and one of the things I really appreciate about them is the boxes on that he does are really nice. They're super thick, hard boxes that can take a pounding and be fine. Even his micro game, Council of Verona, which I love, comes in a really nice. That does barely fit in my pocket. It's a little big. It just goes in a really nice thick box. It's very durable. And for the latest one, he's working on Yardmaster and Yardmaster Express. He's making sure that the box would fit the cards to the game, both sleeved and unsleeved. So if you were a sleeve person or a no-sleeve person, the game will fit in the box, even with the little expansions and add-ons right away, which is nice.
We do the same thing with the Star Trek card game. There's these boxes that were sold for
Official Tournament Sealed Deck.
That, and I think there was another one that they did.
The Fractured Time.
Right. What am I going to say next?
I know what you're going to say because I bought a ton of those just to get the nice boxes. Again, I'm like a box aficionado, so to store my Star Trek cards, I bought extra copies of those products just because I wanted more of a nice box to put stuff in.
There are really nice boxes, and they the continuing committee that I do design for has templates that you can print out for your own specialized cover.
To reskin the box.
So yeah, you can put.
So you reskin it with the Star Trek team that you like the most.
Exactly. The boxes were printed with certain affiliation, a Klingon
Romulan,
symbol,
Klingon.
whatever, and you can make it whatever you want. You can make whatever symbols the game has. Put it on the box, plus whatever color you'd like, which is fun too. So those are really great, and the reason they're so
And
great,
those have proved to be really popular. People
have.
love those because they
Absolutely.
love having the cool box to show the cards in.
they've even given them out as prizes, like with with the reskinning. This is a special box for
I have
winning
won those
this
as
tournament.
prizes and was very happy to get them.
They're great because of the rectangular shape of them. They are designed so that you can have unsleeved cards going across them and sleeved cards going in the other XY direction in them. And so there's two different widths to it, and it looks almost square, but it's not quite square, and that's the reason why. So they designed that specifically for that reason.
I'm going to give another example. Among the Stars, I got that. I backed that off Kickstarter. I get Among the Stars, and it came with a bunch of expansions. It's up here somewhere. Yeah, can we grab it? Is that
It's not open.
I'll be very quiet now.
Yeah, that's all right. So Among the Stars, I had backed that on Kickstarter, and I got a bunch of expansions with it. Oh, so here
This is the first edition.
there we go, first edition. And so taped to the side here are various little add-on goodies here.
Yep.
And this annoys me to no end when I get stuff like this. And as I shake the box, you can hear there's no insert in this box. And I think I got the second edition, and there was still no insert in the box. So I was pleased that the box is a good quality box, and that it fit all the add-on and expansion stuff in the box. And Richard has played Among the Stars with before, but it's just all loose, sliding around in the box. And so I had to put, I think I put a handful of plastic bags in there just to hold it from rattling around in the box. And so much, it bothered me so much because I bought a bunch of expansions for this that I went and bought an aftermarket box insert for this that actually takes it and makes all these nice dividers specifically for Among the Stars because I like the game a lot, and I think I paid almost as much for the aftermarket box insert as I did for the game.
And I think I know what they're going through there because
Yeah.
they have a whole bunch of expansions.
Yep.
And so they could design this intricate insert, but then if you just buy the base game, then you're going to have all these compartments that are just there's nothing in there, and people are going to be like,
why
I'm
is all this
missing
stuff
pieces.
missing from
yeah,
my game?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other concerns that way. If you just have an open box, you can just pile in expansions, and people at least won't complain about now I have
Well,
here's
my cards
Pandemic,
rattle
I've
around
got
and I get all bent and
all these-
nicked.
Oh
and
yeah. No, it's really hard to make everybody happy, and I've been doing that. So I've been spending a lot of my time lately designing boxes. I've designed 3 boxes in the last month. One for New Salem, one for Good Cop, Bad Cop, the second edition, and then one for Bombers and Traders, the expansion to Good Cop, Bad Cop. And so I've been designing, and I'll throw up some of the designs that I've done for the game to see.
I pledged extra to get that. You showed the insert.
Well, yeah.
For New Salem, I'm like, oh, it looks really good.
Yeah.
I upped my pledge amount because I want that nice custom box insert.
And I'll even give you some kind of on-the-fly stats on that. So we've just sent out the surveys. We still have 60 or so people who haven't responded. So that's about 10% of the people who have not responded to the survey. But it was so people know is $10 to get the tray during the campaign, $5 for shipping internationally. After the campaign, we moved it up to $12 because now we're paying for our backer kit or our add-on that will adds cost. They take 20% out of all the add-ons that are purchased. So we wanted to encourage people to get it during the campaign. You can also pre-order it on Game Trays who design the tray. You can pre-order it for $12 as well. So just to give you an idea, but 50% of the people who backed also backed for a tray.
For an extra $10.
For an extra $10.
And the cost of the game was?
It was 24 early bird, 26 non-early bird.
So I paid $26 for the game,
Yeah.
and then I paid an extra $10
For
to get the nice
it's
box
a
insert.
beautiful
Yep.
tray, though.
That's
But I
amazing.
mean, it's so you take the game out, and no matter how many players you have playing the game, everything is just lined up perfectly for you. So you can just take out, I have 5 people playing, take this, this, and this, put these together, I've got my deck of cards, and everything's all just super nice, nicely laid out there for you. Whereas, if you don't get the tray, you have a very simple cardboard insert that just keeps things from rattling around in the box. And
So they don't get
that's what it
damaged.
is.
It's
Yeah,
good enough.
It is, yep. But I was honestly blown away by that 50% of the people, and that's even, we're almost up to 50% of the people, and we still have 10% who have yet to fill out their survey to see if they want to add on trays. It's crazy. We had 118 people during the campaign, so it was just over 600 people who actually backed for it. 118 backed for a tray. And then
A lot of
during
people add-on is through backer kit.
through BackerKit, we use BackerKit as a pledge manager, and so we so instead of getting the standard Kickstarter survey, you go to BackerKit and you get the BackerKit survey, and you can add on additional copies of our games. You can do multiple copies of New Salem, or you can add on this tray too as an accessory. And so far, last I checked, it was 173 people who actually backed through BackerKit to get a tray. So 118 during the campaign, 173 after, and then we've had a few through pre-orders of either BackerKit website or the Overworld Games website to get to pre-order.
There's now 2 companies that are just making aftermarket trays to make your games nicer. And I bought multiples of those, and I made some of my own. I handmade a little insert because I'm like, this game keeps rattling around. I don't like the way it's doing.
Yeah.
Or I bought a bunch of box bands, the rubber bands that go around the outside of your box that hold it really tight so things rattle around inside less.
Nice. Those are
Again,
nice.
because it keeps rattling and falling and getting loose, and the lid would edge up a little bit, and it was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
It sucks when you get the expansion and all of a sudden it just pushes that top away. And you're like, now it doesn't stack.
Or
A Pandemic redesigned their box from first edition to second edition specifically to fit
It's a
the
nice
little
box.
the little Petri trays that
Yeah.
hold the tokens
Yeah.
better, because I had the first edition. When I put all the tokens in the Petri trays, which came with the first expansion, the Petri trays came with expansions. It didn't quite the lid didn't quite sit quite right. It was a little off. Or Power Grid, which is top 10 in BGG, they sell an expansion that comes with a new box. So it's just like there's hardly anything in this box, but you're buying it to get this little expansion and a new box that fits Power Grid plus all the expansions up to the point.
Yeah.
And I bought that too. I bought that too for Power Grid because I want the nicer box to hold all the stuff in it.
But it's really hard for a publisher too, because when you're trying to manufacture a game, we talked about sleevers and non-sleevers. If you're a sleever, you want to sleeve all of your cards, and you need your box to fit those sleeved cards. And if you're a non-sleever, you don't want there to be extra space so your cards don't rattle around in the box. You want them to fit nicely in there. It's really hard to accommodate both, and then it's really hard to accommodate. So now in New Salem, I've kind of the headache of trying to make this work: sleevers, non-sleevers. Potential expansions for New Salem that will fit inside the box as well. The cardboard insert, the nice new game trays insert, and now I got to design a box that will fit just right. Will also fit in a way that I can ship it all over the world at a decent price too. I'm looking at like the USPS, the United States Postal Service, kind of the one-rate boxes, and so I have a box that will fit.
I get a lot of games Kickstarter that come in that smaller flat rate box, and they specifically like the Daybreak here will fit in that box perfectly.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of games planning for that. Like,
Yep.
I'm going to ship USPS. I got to make sure my box fits in the smaller flat rate,
Yep.
priority mail box, because that's going to save me a lot of hassle and money.
So usually you can do something. I guess maybe we could do the whole episode about shipping, but we probably should. If you can fit it in an envelope, it's going to be even cheaper than one rate. So that is your best bet, is to be able to have it fit in an envelope. But then if you can't have it fit in an envelope, then a one rate is really nice because it's like $5.60 or $5.80. It's a one rate that you can use to figure out how much you should have for your goal in Kickstarter, which is nice. And honestly, we are pretty sure usually when we do a campaign that we can get it under the one rate price by doing like an envelope or something cheaper. But we use the one rate price.
That's the advantage here, because this might fit in an envelope.
It will
in the
easily.
smaller checkbox.
You can fit a few of them in an envelope. Yeah. So we do our pricing calculations for our funding goals and stuff based on the fact that we're going to use one rate to ship it, even though we think we can do under it. So then that's kind of a worst case that we can kind of cover the risk of potential shipping issues, or if we add on stretch goals or expansions, or
I got a lot of stretch goals and expansion stuff in envelopes.
Yeah,
I just got from 64-ounce games. I bought some accessibility kits that make leather. They make it blind playable by adding sleeves that add braille.
Yep.
So now I can play with a blind person.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so that was shipped in an envelope, specifically because the post office has a materials for the blind discount rate. And because that's what they were able to ship it in an envelope and get the discounted rate.
I actually just got a message from Richard of 64-ounce Games. I think he did one for Good Cop, Bad Cop. I think he has that available now. Yeah. Don't quote me on that for sure. I think so. I'll put up some diagrams of the boxes for Bomber Trader, Good Cop, Bad Cop, at least one of them, so people can see about kind of what you have to go through you have to figure out every single measurement in a box. And there's so much that goes into it. I mean, the diagram that you can see on the video version looks a little overwhelming. All the little measurements that you have to make. but it's more than that, because you have to accommodate things like sleeves and things like expansions, and you don't really see that in a diagram of just all the measurements of the box. But I try to take some pictures of similar sized games too, so that the manufacturer can get an idea of what I'm going for. And it helps kind of reduce some of the risks, the manufacturing risks too. That we'll talk about it in other episodes. You want to make sure they have every piece of information they can, a manufacturer, so that you can hopefully prevent some of those mistakes and them not understanding exactly what you're talking about.
Jeremy, you just went to BGG Con.
I did.
And you got your copy of King of New York.
Yes, I bought King of New York at BGG Con in Dallas. And I opened it up, and I was so excited to play the sequel to King of Tokyo. And my rules didn't quite fit in the box. They got kind of munched, so I was a little disappointed. But I will say that what's nice about this box is it's a nice thick box, and all the stuff, when it's all punched, it all fits nicely in the box.
That's nice.
And they have little trays for everything. Even the oddly shaped monsters fit nicely in there. So I'm pretty happy overall with this box, but I bought a lot of games where the components don't fit in the box, and they all rattle around loose, and you open the box and they all spill out, or they're miscut, and you punch them out and they look all wonky.
Yeah,
and so
I think they do a really good job with just like box design, because everything has its
Yeah.
kind of nice little place in there. What I noticed in the original was that some of the monsters had like hard corners. They had like spikes coming out of them, and so then my spikes are all like kind of bent up. But it looks like now
these guys all rounded edges. Look at that.
Yeah, these are all rounded.
the monsters are rounded.
I think that's a really good move for them.
Those are the lessons you learn after your first print run.
Yep.
But the rule's still a little bit bigger than the edge of the box. Is that the
They
idea?
go right to the edge, so they got crunkled, or get a little
I got
crimped in transit there. They didn't quite fit.
you. Gotcha.
They were right to the edge of the box.
It's funny because like this weekend I was figuring out how big to make my rules for the Bomber and Trader expansion, designing the box for that for Good Cop Bad Cop. So I know how hard it is, and it was really hard for me to figure that out too. I'm going to actually have to rely on the manufacturer a little bit to do that, to tell me how big they should be, because I want it to fit nicely in the box, and they're really the experts about it.
How many cards is that expansion going to be?
That one is going to be, well, it uses quite a few cards from the base game.
Okay.
But then the expansion cards, it's right around 20.
Okay.
20 cards, and then like a rule book too. So.
Okay. So probably sort of a card pack type of box.
Yeah,
is that what
well,
you're looking at? Like,
No,
what's your...
it's interesting because we're gonna do, because Good Cop Bad Cop, this is the original, this is first print run of it, so it's just a tuck box.
Okay.
But then it seemed to get lost on the shelves of
Yep.
game stores and stuff.
Yep.
So we wanted to make a bigger box, and now we're gonna improve some of the components. We're gonna make some of the cards into chipboard, quite a few of them actually. Make the guns bigger, stand up on a table so you can turn them and stuff. So we're gonna make it a bigger box, and actually, Good Cop Bad Cop is going to be about the size of Bell of the Ball. I really like what Dice Hate Me did with this, where it's it's pretty it's a pretty thin box, but then the surface area is still pretty big, so a store can put it up on a shelf, and you can actually see. And the title is super big. I like that about it too. So we're gonna have
Nice size box.
Yeah, compared to this.
Think about the Resistance. When the Resistance came out, it was in
Yeah.
a smaller box, and when they reissued it, they put it in a bigger box.
Yep.
In fact, Barnes & Noble, as they are having more and more games, their game section is growing. They've given more and more store space to games. If you want to get a game into Barnes & Noble, they have like a minimum box size. They do not want games this size because people will steal them.
Yeah.
They're worried about shrink. So they have a minimum box size that's about the size of Smash Up here. If your box is smaller than this,
It's
Barnes & Noble
expansion.
doesn't
Yeah.
want it. They want you to put it in a bigger box
Huh.
so that it's harder to steal from the store.
Is
And it's
that
easier
why
to-
the Apple phones are always in the big fat boxes? Is that the deal? Okay. Because I know even the 6 Pluses you can fit in your pocket, so that makes sense. All right, that's
It-
clever.
It's kind of interesting because you asked about this, so doing this really quick on the fly. But so this is going to be, if you picture Good Cop Bad Cop, kind of the second edition of this. We're going to have the expansion being about the size of a Smash Up expansion. So it seems like 20 cards and a few other components that it doesn't really justify the size. But what it will do is it will fit like right in here very nicely. So it's going to be a little bit. This is actually going to be a little smaller. So it fits just really nicely in there, and then the rule book on top, so that you can fit in the expansion. You can fit the original whether you have the first edition or the second edition, and it's just going to fit in there nicely. So we're actually, honestly, a little concerned about people being like, you gave me this size box, for an expansion to a game. There isn't much to it. So, I mean, I've seen worse, but...
It's not without precedent, so I'll give an example.
Yeah.
So, Villages, that was the #1 selling game on the Game Crafter for a while, and then they pulled it down and did a Kickstarter. Did more than $100K for a little cheap game. I think it was like $20 on Kickstarter. And so I originally received this for backing on Kickstarter, the little small size game. And
That's
then,
probably about 2 card packs to get.
Yeah,
for our audio listeners. Just
Yeah. This looks like it's a box that would hold 108 cards or so.
Okay.
Maybe 110 cards. Like 2 decks.
Tuck box.
A tuck box.
Yep.
And then I received with the expansions, I now have some of the expansions I got from backing at a higher level, a large box, and the Game Crafter calls this their Pro Box, which now fits everything in a single box. And I'm very grateful for that, because I have other games, like I backed The Agents, with the spy game with the double-sided cards, and I've never played that game, even though I backed it on Kickstarter and received it, I guess, a year or two now ago, because immediately with the stretch goals I got, again, I'm not so happy about stretch goals, and the bonus cards, it wouldn't fit in the little tiny tuck box. And so instead, I put it in a larger box, but all I had was like a generic brown box. And so now when I get out my stack of games, no one ever wants to play that one. It's just in the brown box. They're like, nah. And so it's just been sitting there collecting dust. And so they did an expansion campaign on Kickstarter, and one of the things that you're getting is a nicer big box to put the base game and the expansions in. And I really do appreciate the nicer box.
Sounds like marketing for a game doesn't end after you've sold it. Like there is a marketing aspect to making sure your product looks good on the shelf. So that you want to take it off the shelf,
and it doesn't get stolen.
Exactly.
It's not too small; it gets stolen.
Yep. And it doesn't get, the components can get damaged too if they're rattling around inside a box. So you want to make sure that they're not going to move too much. You'll get cards that get damaged.
Right.
So another thing that we're struggling with is sleeve versus non-sleeve cards. So we have this like super nice tray that we did for New Salem by Game Trays, but so a lot of people back for that. And what Game Trays is having difficulty with is supporting both the sleeved and the unsleeved cards. So. It took a long time. It sounds like they've found a solution to it, but we would have a lot of people unhappy with the product that we gave them if they were sleevers, as they're kind of referred to sometimes, or non-sleevers. So if it didn't fit sleeve cards, the sleevers out there would not be happy.
I would probably sleeve that because it's a drafting game, and there's just lots of passing and lots of traffic on those cards.
Yep.
So I would definitely see myself sleeving that game.
But a lot of people don't. Especially kind of more casual gamers, they just don't sleeve games ever.
And then if you have a box for sleeving, you have an exercise box and things are jangling around in there.
Yeah.
So that makes...
Exactly. If you make it too big, then you put, if you make it for the sleevers, then you put unsleeved cards in there, then you're moving the box around. Yeah, it's slamming around and you're going to get some damage on the sides of your cards.
And these boxes that don't fit has led to a whole aftermarket of box inserts.
Yeah.
So you were
Game
talking...
Trace.
Yeah, so Game Trace is one of them, and they're vacuum-formed plastic. There's another set of guys, they were at the BGG-Con as well, and they're doing laser-cut wood inserts for box. And so you get this laser cut and you assemble it, and it slides right in the box, and it holds everything and organizes it. They're called the Broken Token. I bought 2 of their sets. So I ordered one, and I ordered one for 7 Wonders, and I thought it was great, and it holds everything. And so I ordered a second one for Among the Stars that holds all the cards and the expansions, the little slide-out trays. And they're quicker turnaround than Game Trays because they don't have to make a mold, because they just program the laser cutter to do the right shaped wood pieces, and then you assemble it yourself. It wasn't very hard to assemble. It's a little guide, like doing a little Lego set.
Sure.
And you assemble the pieces and it holds it all together.
Okay. And then the foam inserts too; those have become more popular.
Yeah, they have.
Seeing people all over on Twitter now, where there's either instructions or they just do it themselves, and they get some foam and they kind of cut out spots for every little component, and then it make it the right size so it fits right in the box too. Those are more popular.
Now there's notched gamer foam. You buy like this set of notched gamer foam where it's in fixed units to break it down, but it's much more expensive than rummaging around some foam yourself.
Yep.
So you can cut out like specific squares of
Yeah.
Okay,
so you can,
it's a pre-cut.
Yeah, there's like a little pre-cut knife, and so they just pop out the amount you want. Now it fits whatever component you're trying to put in there.
All right. I think I've seen that, so that makes a lot of sense.
But
Now-
it is super important because when you get a game out, you have the gameplay experience of how fun is this game, how engaging is it. But then part of it is the box. It really is, because a lot of people will actually make a decision about which game to play. You look at all your games, you're like, which one should I play? And I'm always thinking to myself, like, well, that one's going to take 5 minutes to set up. That one's going to take 20 minutes to set up, and that'll really
And put back.
put it back. Yeah.
That's a big. I can see that as being a big part too. Yeah.
So it's so important to make a box that actually works for the way the game works and the way the game is set up and put away.
I had a friend who was into woodworking, and he in his garage made a card sorter thing for Dominion.
Yeah.
So that at the end of every game, you put everything back in its piles. You put them back in there, and they were all labeled and everything.
That's awesome.
So I think he had like a couple different editions. So
Yep.
he'd have to build a whole new one if he ever.
There was a Dominion Kickstarter project for a wood Dominion
right.
organizer,
Yeah.
and it was $100 for this wood organizer, and they got thousands of people to buy it because they wanted to have those cards organized across multiple expansions in one
Right.
box.
I don't doubt it. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
I had a buddy of mine got back from Essen not too long ago, and he bought a game there, and the game came in a square box like King of New York, and somehow the rules in the box were 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and did not fit in the square box. So they were kind of curved, and so when you tried to put everything back in the box after punching it out, the rules didn't fit. And that was really annoying, and that was likely a print oversight in communication or planning that out. Or at BGG-Con, I played what was an early print copy of a game. I probably shouldn't mention what it is. But I played it with the game designer, and the game itself was a great game, very interesting. And most of the game was beautiful, wonderful, but on the board there was a clear misalignment with how the different colors had been printed on the actual board, and you could see a little tail sticking out, and the edges weren't as crisp as they should be. And so I noticed that, and I was playing the game with a game manufacturer. And he immediately noticed that too, like, oh, it didn't trap that file right, they didn't get that quite right, and now it could be there was an early production copy. It could be the final version they caught that and fixed that, or it could be that every copy of that game is going to go out with this little print misalignment on all the boards. Brian, that we've talked about shipping being one of the most expensive costs overhead producing your game.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the second biggest one is the box.
The box.
That
Box
is the
itself.
most expensive component
Definitely.
you print.
Yeah. It's what we think about too, even when we're doing like prototypes to send out to reviewers. When we're making 20, 30, 40, 50, even more prototypes to send out to different reviewers to write articles about an upcoming Kickstarter campaign. That's one of the most important factors in us in which box we use, because if you look at the Game Crafter, which is what we use for our prototypes, the components might be $5 for the components, but then the box itself could be like $4. Just the box. So like what? It's kind of hard to make that decision sometimes. What kind of quality do you want to give to these reviewers? It's not even a real game; it's a reviewer copy. But you do want the presentation to look good, because like I've seen now pictures on Twitter of some of the reviewers who have gotten copies, and they'll be playing it and they'll be showing the components, they'll be showing the box,
Yep.
and
Or they do a video review.
or they do a video review of it, and I want people to see a high quality game. It's not going to be what you're going to get when we actually manufacture. It's not going to be the final version of it, but I do want it to look really good.
Do they tend to mention that on the review videos, that this is temporary artwork, or?
Yeah, we could do an episode about
The
that.
responsible
wow.
guys do, but not all of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you guys for joining me today, and thank you guys for joining us. This has been the Forbidden Limb podcast. You can contact us in our inbox. Haha, I'm going back to the box thing. You can go contact us at theforbiddenlimb@gmail.com, or visit
theforbiddenlimb.com, and comment on the blog post, and
read Brian's blog and read about all the
Fill
reviews
Brian's
of others.
inbox.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add? Any requests you want to make of people?
No,
Okay.
if you want, keep asking for topics. We are looking at what topics people have asked for, and we are specifically doing prep work for that. We've tried to answer some of the listener questions we've gotten in this one, and like in the very near future, we're going to address a lot of those lists of questions. And I know I'm doing prep work and research to get the answers for those. or digging up stuff that I found out in the past related to those questions. And so we do appreciate, like, hey, can you talk about this? Can you cover that? And we are going to address all of those in time.
So that website and that email address, it's listened to.
Yeah. We had a Reddit post recently. We had a whole bunch of great suggestions for topics that we're gonna go through and answer them. So find a way to contact us and let us know what you want to know so that we can find answers for you.
If you're watching on YouTube, put it in the comments. If you're listening on iTunes, I think we can get comments there too, I believe. So.
Yeah, I think at least on the blog. Yeah. So if you can find a place to comment, we'll find it, we'll read it, and we'll definitely try to answer it and put it into an episode.
Or use the forbiddenlin@gmail.com. Just do an email.
There you go.
It's a step easier.
So again, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for joining us. This has been the Forbidden Limb Podcast. I'm your host, Richard New, here with Jeremy Commander and Brian Hink.